All right, let's cross our fingers. Jacob's going to turn it on. Hopefully that starter will go.
You stupid car!
Hey, welcome back to Greg's Carport. So today what we're going to do is first we're going to introduce you to a car that we alluded to last fall. This is a 1972 Ford GRAN TORINO. It's very similar to a car that I drove in high school. That's one of the reasons we picked this up. We picked it up, I don't know, about 7-8 years ago in Martinez, California. But we noticed late last fall that we were having some starter issues. So what we're going to do today is we're going to jack this thing up and we're going to get the starter out. We got a new starter to put in it, and hopefully that'll get rid of our starter issues because we're tired of hitting it with a hammer. All right, so let's open up this hood that weighs 1,000 pounds. Anyway, so what this car has, it has a 351 Cleveland 2-barrel, very common engine for early Fords in the 1970s. The starter is on the passenger side over here on the transmission, but what I wanted to let you know is how we're going to work it here as far as what you need to do with the battery. All right, so if your car has a battery in it, you want to make sure you take the cables off the battery because you don't want voltage going down to the starter when you're down there trying to disconnect it. So the best thing to do, like I said, if you had a battery in your car, take the positive and the negative cables off. Now, Ford has their starter solenoid up here. Chevrolets, GMs had them on the starter itself. But this is your starter solenoid. Your positive cable goes on this side. The positive cable comes out this side, and this wire here runs down to the starter itself. Your negative cable here runs down to a bolt that's on the block of the engine. And this connection right here on this starter solenoid is actually what tells the solenoid to send power through to this cable that goes to the starter. So when you turn the key in the ignition, that sends a signal here, which allows the current to run through and go down to the starter. That's how the starter solenoid works. Anyway, let's get this thing jacked up and get under the car. All right, so I got my trusty assistant, better known as my son Jacob, out here. He's helping me do this. And we're going to put a floor jack here in front of the front tire so that we have more access to get to the starter behind the tire. So we're going to raise the car up, and then we got a couple of jack stands. So let's get the car up in the air, get the jack stands in place, and we'll show you what we got underneath the car. All right, so here we are underneath the car, and that right there is the starter. We have two bolts. We have this one right there that has to come out, and we have one right there that has to come out. These, of course, will be done by my helper, Jacob. So those two have to come out. Those are actually the only two bolts that hold the starter in. Now, just be prepared because this starter weighs a lot. It's going to be a lot heavier than you think. And then right there, that has to come off to remove that bolt right there that holds the cable on. That has to come off as well. And then the starter would work its way out towards the front of the car. So I'll let Jacob get in here now that you've seen that bolt, cable bolt, and we'll get this starter out of here. A lot more oil down here than I thought there was going to be. And I don't know what it is with C4 transmissions. No matter what I try to do, those damn things leak. Oh well, that'll be another video. Alright, so Jacob's got the cable off, the power cable's off, and now he's going to work on getting those two bolts off that attach the starter onto the bell housing. Alright, so now Jacob's working on getting the bolts out that attach the starter onto the bell housing. You could use a 1/4-inch socket to get in there, so there's not a whole lot of room. So as you can see now, he's getting that first bolt out, and we got to work on that second bolt. Then when the starter will...
One's coming out.
All right, just don't let that drop on your head.
Oh, I know, I got it. All right. She's free.
All right, so we got the old starter out. So this is the old one that came out, and this is the remanufactured one we got. So what you want to do is you want to visually check them over, because you just want to make sure they're the same starters. So this here is a AC Delco remanufactured, but it looks like everything matches up as far as connections and everything else. All right, looks like we're good to go. Now Jacob gets to crawl into the car again. All right, so now Jacob's underneath there, and what Jacob's doing is he's just going to clean up the surfaces before we put that new starter in, just to make sure it's clean where it lines up with. You can see right there where he's wiping off the area where it attaches onto the bell housing, the transmission. He just wants to make sure that's good and clean. Get a good surface to surface right there. All right.
There you go.
And there it is. It's in. Mounted up, bolted up. Power cables attached. Like I said, Jacob cleaned off that surface first. All right. Now we got to get a battery in this thing and see if it'll turn the engine over. All right, so we got it back down on the ground. Starter's in. We now have a battery that hopefully will work, because I know it works on our other car. We're going to give it a spin. There's no gas in this car, unfortunately, so at this point we're just hoping to get it to turn over so that we know the new starter works. And just as a reminder on those bolts, the two bolts that attach the starter to the bell housing are 1/2 inch, and the one that holds the power cable onto the starter is 9/16. There we go. All right, let's have Jacob get in this thing and let's see if this starter works.
Sounds about the same.
All right, so Jacob's in the car, and let's see if that new starter will turn this thing over. Nice. Hold on. All right, let me put a little gas in here. That ought to do her. All right, go ahead and crank it, see if it'll fire. Nope. Yeah, I knew it would run. It's a good engine. Just got to get some gas in it. All right, I dumped a little bit more gas down the carburetor. See if we can get it to run a little bit. Yeah, it runs. I knew it would run. It hasn't run since, we haven't had it running since when? Last, like November? Yeah. Somewhere in there. Yeah. So it hasn't run since like last November. So I would say that was a success. With Jacob's help, we got the remanufactured starter on the car and got it all connected, put back together. Again, I kind of stumbled through that, but the two bolts that hold it on to the bell housing are 1/2 inch. And the one that holds the power cable down onto it is 9/16. But anyway, Jacob was able to get the old starter off. We cleaned off that surface, got the new starter on, got a battery in it finally that had some juice in it, and you could see that the car fired right off. Then I decided I'll put a little gas. I know the car runs, but it hasn't been run since, like I said, last November. So I wanted to throw a little gas down the carburetor, and you could see that as soon as I did that, it fired off as well. It's a good engine. It just needs a little bit of TLC as far as, a new carburetor and stuff like that on it, so it'll run better. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the like button down below. We'll have a lot more videos coming up. We still have the 72 Ranchero. We got the 72 Gran Torino. So we're going to have a lot of videos coming up on the two of those. Anyway, hit the like button. And if you liked the video, I hope you subscribe. And we'll see you guys next time.